in many ways, it's terrifying to be a therapist. And there's a variety of reasons for that. I mean, one of the things you learn if you're a therapist is that you really learn something about the intrinsic worth of people. Like some of the best people I met in my therapeutic practice, the best people morally were people who were on the surface. They had nothing going for them. No, nothing worldly going for them. They weren't attractive. They weren't intelligent. They weren't accomplished. They weren't popular. In fact, they were often friendless. They often had devastated families. They had terrible developmental histories. They just had devastated lives. And yet there was still a core of ethical goodness to them that was stunning under the circumstances, miraculous. And so that really takes you aback to see that can happen, right? To see that essential nobility of the human spirit. And so that's a terrifying thing to see. And that goodness can shine through in places that just look dark and that no one is attending to. And the next thing you learn is don't impose your notions of someone's destiny on them. You do not know how that person's life should unfold. You're there to help them think that through. You are not there to give them advice. It's a theft. Giving someone advice, especially if you're a therapist, is theft because if they succeed, well, then it's your success. And it's corrupt theft because if they fail, they bear the consequences and you don't. So that's terrifying. And then the other thing I learned that was terrifying was I never saw anyone in my therapeutic practice ever get away with anything even once. Like, there's that old idea that God has a book and everything you do is written down. It's like, that's not just an idea. You get away with nothing. And of course it makes sense. It's like reality is real and you distort and bend it at your peril. And you may produce a rift temporarily, but that will snap closed on you. And you may not even notice the connection between your initial sin, failure to hit the target, and the consequences of that. But the consequences are inevitable. And it's even worse than that because not only are they inevitable, they tend to multiply. And so all of that, to the degree that I've been capable, has scared me straight, let's say. It's like, no, I'm not going down that path. And you learn too, as a therapist, you learn the ancient truth that the truth is redemptive, right? And this is another of the great accomplishments of Freud, because Freud shed new light on the logos in some ways, right? Because Freud understood that true speech heals, right? I mean, that's his entire therapeutic approach is bring people in and don't disturb them when they're trying to tell you something. Let them say anything. Absolutely. And that's what he told his clients too, is like, say whatever comes to your mind, right? No matter how off color, off-putting, embarrassing, shameful, aggressive, sexual, find out who you are. That's the first draft. Lay yourself out on the table. And while he had them lay themselves out on the couch, he hid from his clients so they couldn't. He was afraid that if they saw his face, they would censor themselves by watching his emotional reactions. So he sat off to the side of his clients so they could just say what they had to say with no interference. And you know this because you're an educator, but people cannot organize themselves and come to who they are without laying themselves out. And they can't lay themselves out without thinking or talking. Most people think by talking. In fact, you learn to think by talking. You can't talk if no one listens. Most people have no one to listen to them.